Well, Michele, we are going to impose ourselves on you once again because after showing us your gorgeous, gorgeous home, we missed a couple of rooms that I still want to share with our followers before we start on the reason we really came out here to begin with, which was to do our craft,
Yes.
our matchbook covers. So tell me about your wall of curiosities, of framed curiosities. I love this.
I loved the idea of having a collection of taxidermy and feathers, and a lot of them have meaning. So we do have bugs that I find already ready for pinning around our property, and I have a case for that, and feathers that we find around our property. And it just is a unique representation and expression of nature and collecting and all the things.
And just all the things you find fascinating about nature. And again, it kind of repeats that initial impression I had of coming up. It's almost like, when you go to the nature center in a state park
Yes.
or a national park. I have so many of these same kinds of things, but they were passed down from my brother-in-law, and we cherish those things.
Yes.
And before we move this way, just torque a little bit, Stuart, and or twist a little bit and see if you can show that wonderful bathroom with your collection of, you are a girl who loves her mushrooms.
Yes, I do. And we do have some morels that will grow occasionally on the property, depending on the season, if it's rainy enough. But
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, I really love mushrooms, and the vintage scarf that's hanging above the toilet is a favorite. It's so fun to frame that.
Well, and you told me that you had also framed one of your grandfather's kerchiefs.
Yes.
I think that's, and again, another wonderful way if you don't have a lot of money,
Yeah.
that you can incorporate meaning and art into your home in a way that expresses your personality.
Well, and this piece here actually is a rabbit fur little throw piece that my grandparents had in their home, and you can't take everything, but
Yes.
you can try and reimagine things in a new way. And so I thought it would be really neat to put it in an inexpensive shadow box.
Yes, that's very fun.
Yeah.
Well, we won't go into your bedroom, but I do love the paneling that you've got behind your bed. That's just really wonderful, and I love I just love the simplicity of it, and that's obviously a nod to your husband's minimalism.
Yes, it is.
Okay, Stuart, come into the office, or AKA's Michele's homage to the Five Arms, I'm going to say. I'm going to say, because have you never met a plaid you didn't like?
That is correct. Yes.
And I think that's a good rule to live by. So this is really wonderful. Is this your office, your husband's office, both of your office?
This is my office, and so a lot of the aesthetic was what I did before we even traveled to Scotland. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I just connected with the terrain and the entire aesthetic of the region, because I had already incorporated some of those things into my own space. But I really wanted something dark and moody, and just something that could be reflected in the things we collect and the things that have inherited. And
Yeah, well, there's definitely a harmony to all of your interior spaces. And I love this. I love that fabric,
Yes.
that rabbit fabric, which we also saw on a stool in the kitchen. That's just really wonderful. And this guy right here, obviously you also have a thing for rabbits. So this right here reminds me of the movie Harvey.
Oh, yeah.
With Jimmy Stewart. I love that movie. Well, we can't linger in here too long, Stuart, because Leah is waiting. Leah is waiting in the craft room for us to work on our project. So what do you say we head that way?
Sounds good.
Okay, now to the reason at hand that you and I really became close, because you gifted me some of these wonderful matchboxes. and you actually gifted them to me twice. The first time was just wonderful, and the second time they were kind of like, you custom made it for me in blues.
Cottage blues.
Yes, in cottage blues, and I absolutely love them. But you also make these to sell.
That's correct.
So where can people find you if they want to buy some of these to gift, to try to, I don't know, just to visit with you, find out the magic of what it is you do?
Yeah.
Where can they find you?
I have an Etsy shop. So it's Rat Hill is my artist name. And then I also am a vibes artist with Edmond's first Thursday's Vibes Art Community. And it's fun. We line the streets of downtown Edmond, and everybody sells their beautiful works and talks to everybody. And it's just a really fun community event.
So how long have you been doing this? Been like selling your wares?
For 2 years. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So, yeah.
It's
And
just
you
wonderful.
made all these pieces up here too, right?
Yes, yeah, I've made all. I started with matchboxes and then kind of branched out into objects, and
I love that.
am always inspired by different pieces I'll see, so then I'll try and recreate it in a kind of an artistic way using marble paper or Florentine paper or vintage paper.
So gorgeous.
And it started with my grandfather's Southwest art magazines. I inherited a bunch of those, and I started making matches with those. So that was kind of the initial start. And then, yeah.
This reminds me a little bit of my mosaic of the cottage.
I know. I was just thinking of her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're
And you
she
showed
would
that
do-
to me.
Yeah. Oh, did I?
It is
Okay.
so
Yes. Yes.
beautiful.
She's
Yes.
in Paseo, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, you are so inspiring to us.
Yes.
But I am going to step away, and I'm going to let you work your magic in creating some matches for Leah. And here's my question of the day. So you put out an assortment of papers
And these are just a few of your
Yes,
abundant
very
selection.
of
right?
what you
small
have.
few.
But
I would have gotten overwhelmed if there were too many.
yes, but
pieces, so I'm
perhaps
glad you did.
representative. So we've got some, and you said some of these are vintage papers.
These are vintage wrapping papers. That's
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
always a good thing to look for any type of vintage stationery or papers.
And you just source your stuff from just everywhere.
Yep.
From just everywhere, and you source your matches from. I'm sure we can probably find, we can give you guys a link to, these are the best matches, aren't they?
They are.
They really are. Because I have gotten some before that were just like, oh, like for weddings and things in white boxes, and they were duds. So these are really the best ones that you want to get.
And big box stores, believe it or not, have the best almost wholesale pricing.
Oh, really?
So I did try and get wholesale matches, and it's cheaper to go and buy them from a big box
Big
store.
box store.
Wow.
So your big box store of choice is Lowe's, Home Depot,
I
Big
do
Lots.
Walmart because it's
Walmart.
close.
Okay. Okay. Good to
Love
know. Good to know.
I know.
Okay. So here's our question of the day, and that is, if Michele, if you were as fortunate as I and Michele,
Give them a number, like give each one a number so they have to pick and I'll
One,
pick. There you go.
2, 3, 4, 5.
okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, it's full disclosure. I thought for sure I would know which one Leah picked. And wrong answer. I was wrong. But look, I mean,
didn't
look
do
at
it
these.
just
Look
to
at
prove
these.
you wrong.
She even puts little toppers on
These
them.
little hearts.
Oh my!
This is a vintage button.
Vintage button.
A
These,
seashell.
yeah, she got these
A little
on
brown.
line. These little brass. I mean, just I guess your imagination could go wild, and so probably you could put found objects on there too,
Absolutely.
seashells and twigs and all
Pine
sorts of
cones.
things. Pine
Oh.
cones.
All right, so which one do
Okay.
you think she had?
Yeah,
Okay,
which one did you think I would pick, Lily?
I thought you would pick this one.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because when we went to Art and Bloom, these were the colors of your very favorite.
That's true.
Your favorite.
is true.
And so I assumed, because Leah describes her aesthetic as grandma chic. And
Okay.
I love the vibes.
so
everywhere.
to me, this kind of looked like grandma chic. But tell me which one you picked out.
I picked this one. This one called to me.
And I would name this Caspari because it reminds me of all the
I
Caspari.
love the gold. I think it's the gold.
The reflective gold.
It reminds me of something very specific that I don't know if it's surprising or not, but I get a Dr. Seuss vibe.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's because it reminds me of Caspari napkins.
It's really cool.
But that's the fun thing, is it reminds us of different things. So now I am going to step out of the way, and
We're gonna let you do your
we're
magic.
going to let you do your
and
magic.
show
But
us.
first, and we're going to speed through some some of what we do, but tell us what you need to have on hand if you want to try this project out yourselves.
So the best thing to have on hand would be your matches, obviously, and then you pick your paper, scissors, and some glue. You could use Mod Podge. You could use just a thicker kind of decoupage style glue.
Okay.
And then it's always good to have some type of smoothing device, which commonly are bone folders. So they're used to fold cards, and they have their heart, the strength can straighten edges. So something along those lines.
Okay. Now, Michele, if you're going to try this project at home, and do try this at home, this isn't a don't try this at home, because this is a relatively simple project, but you do need to have some things on hand.
Yes.
So show us what you have that makes the task easier.
So you need your matches, large matchbox. You need a bone folder, which will help you straighten out edges. It has some strength, so it allows you to get a real crisp edge. Mine is very dirty. You need scissors. So the first step is to take your paper, and you want to set your matchbox on top of it. If you have a pattern, you want to make sure your pattern is straight on the box itself. So I always just kind of flip it over to double check.
You gotta
Give
think
yourself-
about where you want it lined up now.
Yeah. Give yourself a little room, and you want to leave enough on each side that you can fold it up, and it's going to hopefully cover most of the side of the box like that. So then you're going to kind of leave yourself some room over here, and you're going to cut along here. You want to make sure you give yourself enough room on this side, and then we're just going to cut along there. So now we have one side, and you can just take this as a template and put it on your paper and move to cutting the next piece. Doesn't have to be perfect, because you can straighten it up later.
Just with scissors. You don't have to have any of those razor blades,
Yes.
or you don't even necessarily have to have that cutting mat, but it would
Correct.
certainly make it easier, I guess.
So now we've got our paper. So now we're going to put our glue. I always wet my brush a little bit first. And we're going to take our glue and put it on top of the matchbox. And there's different ways of doing this. You can do it where you put it on the paper. I just do it the way that I have found is easier for me.
What inspired you to do these, to make these to begin with?
I've seen others do it, and then it just, I really liked the idea of taking something that, might be slated for the bin, and to just reuse it in a different way. And that's where, when I had my grandfather's vintage Southwest art magazines, it really made it to where I thought I can use these on matches, and it would just look so cool.
It's like paint.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So you kind of want to put a thicker layer, and then I always go back over it once again to kind of remove. You don't want it to be too thick and drippy on your glue. Then you take it and you're going to put it down like this. Again, make sure you can cover your sides. And then on this part also, just once again, make sure your pattern is straight. For this type of paper, it's not too bad because your pattern is a little less uniform. If you're doing a scene or a specific picture, it can make a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
And while it's still wet, you have a little bit of flexibility, don't you,
Right.
to move it around slightly?
Then you're going to take your bone folder and you're just going to smooth it out.
Can I use a credit card for this kind of thing?
You could. Anything with the straight kind of edge that will help you get a smooth finish. And some of the paper, so paper likes to curl when it's first wet. So sometimes you can kind of wait just a second. You want that paper to absorb.
Well, your matchbooks were always, I couldn't tell if you painted it on or like what you did, because they're so smooth that it almost seems like that's how it was originally made.
Yeah, it's really, you just want to get it as smooth as possible. Sometimes it doesn't matter as much if you have a specific paper that has a pattern like this. It's not as big of a deal.
And in terms of the weight of the paper, you have the best luck with kind of a medium weight paper like that versus a very thick paper or a very thin paper.
I have found all papers can be problematic and all papers can be wonderful. So it really,
Good answer.
I wish that there was a specific, I mean,
It sounds like one of your garden answers to a
Yes.
question.
it's
Yes.
kind of all over the board.
Yes.
It's kind of meditative watching you.
Yeah, it
do
is.
So you also want to clean up. So after you've smoothed it out, and it's not 100% perfect. Sometimes your Matchbox is also going to determine
Yeah.
like kind of what you can do. But this is where your tip of your bone folder can also come in handy because it can help get at corners. You want to be careful if it is a thinner paper like this, so you don't want to do it too much because it might rip the paper.
So weird.
So sometimes you just kind of, then you just let it be. So then you flip it over and you want to clean up your edges. Very scientific, you know, you just use your finger. Now you can do things differently. If you wanted to go ahead and fold your sides up and get that going, I prefer to cut here, cut along this margin on both sides.
You've got a wonderful guide there then to be able to do that.
So I prefer to go ahead and get that done.
You look like you've done a few of these.
Let's see. There we go.
So, Michele, if someone wanted to buy these online, can you give them an approximate price on what a large box is? Do you sell them in multiples? How does that work?
The large boxes usually range anywhere from $18 to $28, depending on the paper. A lot of my papers I source from Brazil or the UK. So, you know, these are really specialty papers
Right.
created by artisans themselves.
And
So-
the toppers as well. Like
Yeah.
you source a lot
Yes.
of toppers vintage.
And and all the toppers. So some of it is really like a lot of, you know, the craft of just actually finding the items to make the object as well. It depends on. So I've have a lot of customers that will buy, you know, specialty custom mini matchboxes. So it's kind of all over the board, yeah. But a lot of them are sold individually.
Okay.
Now you're going to, so now that that's done, then you're just going to kind of view on the side. This is always kind of a guessing game because at this point, I don't like to measure. It takes too long for such a small piece. So I just kind of eyeball it. And then I know that that's going to go on this side. And it'll cover most of it. It didn't get all of the white, but that's okay. You put a little glue. Again, not too much because you don't want it to drip.
And even though this isn't a complex process and it doesn't take a ton of time, this nevertheless, when you purchase something like this, there is an investment of the time it takes for you to source the special materials, for you to actually do the work
Perfect it.
and perfect it, and just the artistry that's involved in selecting if you want a topper to go along with it. But these are really, I love things that are both beautiful and utilitarian.
It just makes your matchbook bring you joy.
Well, and then you can sit it out and it's,
Yeah.
Like Linda does, they're all over.
Yeah.
All of it. And
They are
yeah,
art in the
yes.
house. They really are like little pieces of
and there's
art
something
all
so
over.
tactile about using a
Yes,
match.
yes. I
It's so
agree. Versus a
rewarding.
clicker, yes. So do you ever do fireplace matches?
I know other artists that do, and I just never have. It's really, those are a harder thing for me to source, and but you certainly could.
Yeah.
You really could. Cylinders are harder
Oh,
to
yes.
cover.
Cylinders, no, that's true.
So it's a harder cut and it's a little bit harder application.
I'm trying to think of the fireplace matches I have. I think they come in square boxes.
I
I got them on Amazon.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I was thinking
Yeah.
of the circle.
Yeah,
Well,
both.
I'm sure it's both, but yeah, the circle one's what I
Yeah.
So then we smooth that out. And then you can kind of look at your corners and see if you need to make any additional little small cuts.
That's so smooth.
Okay, and then there's one side.
Well, that is just wonderful, and I think it's the second side is just a replica of the first.
That is.
Okay, so
Then you just do it again.
and just do it again, and then obviously when you select a topper, and show us where you keep your toppers.
I keep them in these neat little vintage filing cabinets. That was my great grandfather's. It might have been his dad's as well.
Oh, wow.
But we have, yes, I use a lot of intaglios in a lot of my work, which is what is in this drawer.
A lot of laces.
And then a lot of brass ornaments.
Love that drawer.
Lots of
Look at treasure
medieval and
chest.
lots of vintage necklace pieces.
So pretty.
It's always neat to take you can take like your grandmother's necklace, or if you have even, these aren't real, it's just costume, but anything like this that you could add, you can just put on the top.
Yeah, that's really
If you
sweet.
find a
and then
stone
keep it on
outside,
your coffee table instead of in a drawer
Yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that.
and
Yeah.
it just makes it look
So
really
that would be
sharp.
a fun thing to look for when you're thrifting, if you're at Michael's, if you're walking up and down the
Estate
street.
sale.
You can always imagine something as a topper.
Well,
on
and I
top
know
of
for
your
mom,
Matchbox.
I mean, if anybody that has kids, if you go to all the rock places when you're on vacation,
Oh, yes.
there's always rocks and all that. I mean, so it's like, taking
Yeah, I was looking at those.
taking a rock that you get, and you
Yeah.
can just put it on top.
Oh,
and
yeah.
now it has meaning.
Yeah, and how fun to do that for a child and use it. You wouldn't even have to have matches in there. Just have it as a really special treasure box
Yes.
that they could put fun little things. I was watching To Kill a Mockingbird, and Scout, had all of her little precious things that she kept in a box. And to give someone a treasure box like that for their fairy finds or for their little things, I think would just be charming.
Oh, so perfect. Yes.
Yeah, really, really fun. Thank you, my dear, so much
Yes.
for showing us how to do this, for sharing your absolutely gorgeous spaces, but most importantly, thank you for sharing your creativity and your artistic eye.
What's up, people?
Don't kick me,
I'm trying to
Stuart.
get where I can see everybody. at the same time.
Yeah. Yes. So thank you, darling. We so
Thanks for
appreciate it.
having us.
Thank you
And you are always welcome at the cottage.
Oh,
And I
thank
feel
you.
certain that you would say I am always welcome here.
Oh, always.
And just you guys check out her Etsy page and just Rat Hill. Just
We'll
search.
link it. We'll link it too.
We'll
on this
link it,
video.
but just
yeah,
in
Brad
case.
Hilco. Mhm.
And what's the provenance of that name?
That name, so Rat was my grandfather's initials, because this was kind of started with him. And I started making the matches as he was passing away, so it was kind of a therapeutic way of handling grief. And so Rat is his initials, and then because we live up the hill from their home, I just really liked the
Rat Hill.
A lot of attention and everything.
Yeah. Detail.
Yeah, I was thinking I got a very Tasha Tudor vibe kind of when I saw it, or Beatrix Potter or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, it's very, 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 very wonderful. Well, this is absolutely charming. I can't thank you enough. And Leah, are you going to go home with a new box of matches?
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.